Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Yard and Gardens for kind of a look around at the annuals this year. You may notice that I have this weird little mic on the side of my face. I'm trying something different yet again. It's already less cumbersome, but what I don't know about yet until I edit this video is how is it with that wind, because it is very windy today, and or what's it doing to my vocal qualities, because that other mic just, I don't know, everybody thinks they sound weird in recordings. I know I really felt like I sounded weird compared to my other recordings. So you guys could throw something in the comments there. Let me know if you thought that mic changed things, if this mic is better. And at that, we will get on to actually looking at plants, because this is a tour of the annuals gardens as compared to the perennials. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. I guess we'll start with the Lanchampas, because I am just loving the heck out of these things. When we get to the other pepper patch, you're going to see why when it comes to the peppers. But just in general, through this really hot spell we've been having, these gardens have required less water maintenance than the soil gardens, and I think it's because it's all just collecting in the straw around the edges and in the straw underneath there. Sure, it's getting taken advantage of. I do have mushrooms popping up that disappear quite rapidly when they get hit by actual sun. Fuzzy assures me these are highly dangerous and not to be eaten, and I assured him I wasn't planning on it. But either way, we're getting some interesting mushroom growth out of that. Definitely moisture in those bales. What you see here, though, these are the zucchini starts that I purchased up at the Home Hardware there in Shoal Lake, and I cannot recall ever seeing such beautiful zucchini plants, even from starts that I've purchased in my garden. I got flowers already. It's just the beginning of July, so I mean, for you more southerly gardeners, you probably got a lot more advanced plant material. But for me here in Westman, I'm still adapting. I came from BC, so that's a whole different climate, but I've failed miserably with zucchini so far here, and this looks like it's got some potential. There's lots of flowers on each and every one of those. I believe I have 4 of the starts that survived, so that is absolutely fantastic. Look at this over here. We got a beautiful orange zucchini flower there. Yeah. Still got a massive glare issue on the camera. I don't know, maybe there's some sort of film I can put on the view screen so I don't have to worry about that. Polarizing film or something. But anyway, let's take a look at these peppers. These first 2 rows here are the cayennes, and then we have the Hungarian Wax Peppers, and we have the jalapenos. But if we take a look, we can see pepper. I don't see one on that plant, but I see one there. Peppers there. Definitely peppers on those 2 plants. You can see from the other side. You know what? Actually, let's just take a look at this from the other side. I'm just going to throw my shadow into things, but there we go. Getting down on the knee there. We've got a nice pepper down there. That was one of the first ones to pop up. Over here we've got another one. And then looking at the Hungarian Wax Peppers, look at the size of that beauty, eh? We've got a couple popping up on there. I'm gonna need more production than this in general, right? But really, this isn't too bad. These ones at least have a chance to get ripe for me. And if we look at the plants, like, that's some pretty healthy looking leaves compared to what's normally going on for my peppers, and compared to what's going on in the soil, which you'll see shortly. Now these jalapenos, not looking quite as productive, but I thought I saw one. Oh, there we go, way up by the corner of my hat. Hopefully you can see it. There's a jalapeno hanging on that plant. Oh, that glare just really does not help. And then the cucumbers. Again, these were starts. Everything in both of these beds paid starts, except for no, that's not true. The tomatoes, I didn't pay for the tomatoes. I started them on my own. But anyway, these cucumber starts here. Again, another plant that I have very much struggled with that seems to be thriving in the Lanchampa environment. I've got flowers throwing off. I got a little tiny cucumber on there. Now as I look at that, I have a pickle-sized cucumber down there. I can't wait to tell Shar about that. That's fantastic. But anyway, like, as it goes for me gardening in Westman here, this is phenomenal. I am just blown away. Okay, so the garden ship Crim, like I said, I didn't pay for these. These are all black Crims from seeds that I've been given and then saved, and then Brother Troll actually sent me some more recently, so I am good to go on black Crim tomatoes, which is fabulous. But we got flowers forming here. For a lot of people, they've got fruit on their plants already. Again, you know, this is me learning to adapt, but I got flowers. I suspect I will have tomato harvest. And if we look in here, I filled these. There's 2 inches or so, I shouldn't say filled, there's 2 inches or so of yard soil on here. So we've got a lot of weeds that are popping up in here. And being me, I'm just leaving them be. But the onions are doing much better in here since I put even just that little bit of straw mulch down. So yeah, I would definitely recommend, if you're going to build one of these garden ships or line chapas out of straw, make sure you put that layer of straw back on top of the soil, keep that moisture, prevent those desert cracking conditions, and you'll do better than this. And this is, you know, looking pretty good. We'll compare it to the soil tomatoes in a moment too. I got a little bit of powdery mildew going on my pumpkin here, which has me somewhat concerned. I think I'm supposed to basically cut that off and burn it, so I will do that after I finish making this video. But the pumpkin itself kind of looks like we got a nice solid vine forming there. When that gets a little sturdier, I think I'm going to encourage it forward, because I don't really want it encroaching too much on the bed itself. But I believe, yeah, there are 2 separate pumpkin plants, so that one's already moving forward. Excellent. So hopefully, yeah, we'll get a nice little waterfall of pumpkin growth up front here. And then we've got the cabbage and the onion bed. This is amazing. Yeah, one moment I guess, and I will open up some rocks and let us see what is growing on. Again, we're experiencing what I consider to be phenomenal results. We have so many brassica moths out here because every second year is canola. So in between those years, they just ravage everyone's gardens. So really, I don't even get cabbage to get this far in my average attempt. I am beyond thrilled. We've got some of the little red cabbages in here, lots of the larger, just kind of a standard, what is it, white cabbage, green cabbage. It's early Copenhagen, I think, might be the actual variety I planted in there. And then we can see a lot of onions working along. This one kind of seems to be shoving itself around and seems to have gone to seed. If anybody can tell me why onions go to seed and or what I should do about that, that would be great. Should I be cutting these off or just leaving it and collecting seeds? But anyway, let's look at this onion that has grown so far. It's definitely gotten a little bit bigger than what we planted in here. So that's a start. I probably shouldn't have done that, but it's almost as easy to put a plant back in here as it is in an aquaponic garden. It's just kind of, it's loose, you shove it in there, it's fantastic. We look up under here and there's a lamb's quarter in there. Like, whatever, it's edible, I don't care, I'll let it grow. Kind of surprising though, because this was purchased soil that I got in here. It was an 80-liter bag. And did a perfect job, actually. It established kind of the depth of soil that I wanted. Hence, I filled these guys with about 1.5 inches, 2 inches of soil on top of their straw. You know, you got to start somewhere. But this cloth is doing a fantastic job of protecting that crop, and I need to make sure it is back on there pronto. Yep, that cloth was not very expensive at all, and while it seemed really flimsy, it's been worth the couple of bucks I spent on it. I ended up using the other half in where I did transplant some of those cabbages too. I know there are still way too many in there, but you'll see in the garden I did a little bit better with proper plant spacing. So let's move into the soil. So moving into the soil does take us to this year's lawn to garden project. This was tilled up this spring and planted with tomatoes from inside, and then along these fence lines I planted a bean of each variety. There's like burgundy and yellow wax, although I couldn't tell you from memory which side is which, but at each downward post I put a bean of each variety on either side, and then I just went hog wild sprinkling radish seeds down there. I'm not actually too concerned about getting radish bulbs because I was thankfully educated by Punky and Babs as to the joy of letting those suckers go to seed and then just harvesting those pods for your salad. That is one of the most awesome things I've learned from you guys. It's just such a delightful flavor, and you ultimately get a lot more food produced by a single seed, so that's never a bad thing. Along this one here, as we get my shadow in the way, let me turn a bit. I turn a bit and get glare. Oh, it's a no-win scenario. We've got dill growing along the base here. I did plant cucumbers on this side of the fence at each downward location, but unfortunately only 2 sprouted for me at the very end here. Excuse me. And they're, having been planted from seed out here much later than those starts were even put in, they're looking pretty small, but I'm just kind of curious to see how they're going to do in general. I'm not really expecting much out of them. What I am expecting is a lot out of this. This is our tomato production garden. This is our canning garden, if you will. And at the base of all of these, we went nuts sprinkling carrot seeds. So let's see if I can find a good example. But all of these little plants that kind of look like parsley, here's a great example, are in fact carrots. So rather than taking a row out of the garden to plant them like normal people do, I figured, hey, the book is called Carrots Love Tomatoes, so I'll put them in that space that I would leave open anyway. And in a lot of cases, they seem to be sprouting up for me, so I'm really excited to see what not only the tomato harvest is like, but the carrot harvest from the tomato patch. Because, that's kind of an unusual little bonus. And you guys know I'm getting more and more into this companion planting and soil biology that, benefits from companion planting, really. So yeah, here we've got, should be the bush beefsteaks on the left here, and then a bunch more black crims on the right. Look at this beautiful plant. That's already forking. I've got flower starts in there. I thought I saw open flowers on one of these. Oh, there it is, but that is the broad ripple cherry. I love these tomatoes from Rob Bob. They're just little tiny nuggets of joy, but look at that. And the plant next to it as well. That's awesome. It kills me. I laugh so hard that one of my shortest season variety plants that produces all season long, so I can see why he would have it in Australia, came to me from one of the longest garden seasons on the planet. Really, even winter in Australia is not that bad from what I see. But then again, I'm in Manitoba, so it's all relative, isn't it? Anyway, this particular tomato patch seems to be doing well. When we look at the tomato patch beside it, planted a little bit later, the runts of the group, we have had a couple of deaths in here. It's tragic, but that's life. I haven't planted carrots at the base of all of these because I ran out of carrot seeds in the other one. I think between Fuzzy and I, we threw down something like 4,000 carrot seeds. So it'll be really interesting to see what does pop. On the far edge, though, kind of defining the garden, we've got all of these little clusters. Now, these are spaghetti squash from seeds that, I kid you not, are over 5 years old, and they looked like paper at this point. They were coming off and coming apart in little layers, and I really didn't expect any of them to sprout, so I planted out the rest of them, as you can see from the overplanting in this row, and most of them seem to be giving it a go. So I don't know if I've got enough season for a spaghetti squash seed to produce me a spaghetti squash at this point, but it's going to be real pretty watching that try. And then back here we've got more row gardening. I don't do a lot of row gardening in general. I do odd placement gardening, but I'm trying to work with some of the normal concepts. And I did plant some beets. So I've got a row of beets. You can see a few of them coming up here. Not as many as I might have liked, but up at the top of the line, we've got a few more that are coming up. So maybe if I just came out here a little more often with the watering can, which which is one of my greatest sins. It's part of why I love aquaponics so much, is it waters it for me. And this is parsnips that I've got growing beside it there. If anybody has any great parsnips recipes, let me know. I'm told they can basically be used like a standard starch in a stew type situation, so I look forward to learning about parsnips, you know. Now, somewhere in all of this mess, I planted garlic, and my mulch did not work exceptionally well, as you can see, to prevent plants growing up in there. I've got some lovely dandelion and thistle examples, but I don't really see anything that looks too much like garlic, so I'm kind of writing that off for the rest of the year. But that's the way it goes with experimental gardening. I'm learning. Next to that over here, though, we have the onion and pepper patch. Now, these onions are doing far better than their garlic counterparts there. But much like the onions that are growing in the champas there, I've got several of these that are getting ready to throw flowers and go to seed. Now, I believe that results in a smaller bulb, because I've tried growing onions in the past in the gnome garden, but I just always assumed, considering the crap quality of the dirt that I was growing in, not soil, dirt that I was growing in, yeah, that probably skewed results. But if you could let me know, anybody who's got experience with the onions, does going to flower mean I'm going to have tinier bulbs? Should I snip those off? Do I cook them up like people do with, what is it, garlic scapes? Yeah, I've got a whole lot of I don't know going on there. Then we got a soil pepper patch that's kind of in the middle of this, with a few more onions on the other end. And, you know, immediately we can see that the weeds are much more prevalent here than they are in the other pepper patch. And if we look at these, you know, these are all purchased starts, just like the others. That Super Chili's doing all right comparatively, but look at the color of the leaves. For the most part, these are yellow, these are sad. This one here, I think this might be the ghost pepper, seems to have adapted well, and it looks like there might be flower starts just beginning in there. I don't know if we're going to have enough of a season to bring that off, but we have a pepper bomb and the 3-year-old bathroom pepper. Oh my goodness, look at all of this new life coming up the branches there. That's fantastic. I hadn't even noticed that earlier when I was coming out. Tons of it there too. This old girl just wants to live, but sadly she's not going back in the house again. Anyway, looking at the other peppers in this patch, you know, we've got some jalapeno. That's one of the happiest looking peppers in there. I mean, sure, it's surrounded by weeds, like I was just owning up to, but comparatively, all of these pepper plants kind of pale, kind of not very productive. And like I say, they've been taking up a lot more of my time with the watering can. We got this one Hungarian wax pepper there. I mean, that doesn't even really look like a Hungarian wax pepper start to me, but I haven't grown them in a while, so we'll see. Back here we've got the perennial onions. Oh, I love these beauties. Look at these little nuggets of flavor right there. You pop these puppies off, roast them whole with your steaks or whatever. Oh, so good. And these are so productive now that I'm giving them some sunlight. Oh, the noon bell. Gonna come through here with my thistle gloves and get rid of those. If anybody knows of a good use of thistle and is prepared to pay for postage, I will happily send you pounds and pounds and pounds of thistle. My yard produces it so well. Oh, but look at that. Then we've got, coming off of it here, another cluster starting to grow. So I suspect that's why these are referred to as walking onions, because I mean, that's gonna flop. Plant those somewhere, plant those somewhere. What's new to me though is this here almost looks like it's trying to produce a more atypical onion flower and seed situation on top of the bulbs. So yeah, I don't know, is that maybe something because it's such a hot year this year? But wow, are these productive. These, ultimately this is 3 clusters. I want to say 3 plants, but that's so not accurate. This is 3 clusters like this that have been growing for a while. And I am absolutely certain that these have produced more of these little onion bulbs for us to enjoy this year in the sunshine than that back patch has produced in a single year, even in its best year. And there are probably 40 of these things back there, or there were. I've been giving them away left, right, and center, and choosing who lives and who dies with the lawnmower, but I'm definitely going to bring more of these forward into the onion and pepper patch, because that is fabulous. So maybe 2 in the middle there, 2 rows of 5. That should be nice and productive. Get at least a small jar of these pickled too, eh? Oh yeah, little pickled onions. Pick me. Again, we've got some lovely thistle. So like I said, if you're willing to pay for postage and you got a use for it. But back here in the bunker garden because it was made from sawed chunks, kind of looked like a big old bunker when we started. Got some flowers in there. That's fantastic. Now, which side to approach this from? Because I still haven't mowed the lawn around here. And I really... I might as well, because they're sturdy enough to deal with direct sunlight. Got another little pepper plant in there. Much like the other raised bed garden, it seems to be a happier shade of green. Nice little tomato there, but tomatoes always do well in this bunker garden for whatever reason. Dead pepper there, nice tomato there. It looks like maybe a little water could be used. Even the thistles are a little limp today. We got another nice tomato over here. Yeah, I don't think I've watered this back bunker garden in quite a while though, so that's not too much of a surprise. What is a bit of a surprise and a complete and total tragedy is the absolute absence of anything remotely potato related. I'm really glad that I didn't invest in seed potatoes this year, because I have not seen anything coming out of here. Now, there's a very good possibility that, the weird weather that we had, the couple of cold nights after I put them out there, maybe that was a problem. The extreme heat since I put them out there, maybe that was a problem. Ultimately, I'm thinking it comes down to gardener error. I am really bad about not getting out with the watering can, and seriously considering at least getting a hose bib put on the house, because we don't actually even have an exterior garden hose. So that's probably not helping. At least if we had the hose set up, then I could stand out here and spray, right? Over here, we've got what's normally the Three Sisters garden. The corn, just a pathetic showing this year. Some of the actual, plants look nice, but for the number of corn kernels planted in these 4 rows, I am not thrilled with the production that I'm seeing here. Now, under this bit of cloth, you might guess what we have is a few of the transplanted cabbages. So I'll just break in here. It's way easier with the logs because, just 1 or 2 things to move. But we see, with a little bit of space, these seem to be doing okay. I'm not going to go all the way down the line because, well, it's kind of annoying and I don't want to let bugs in. But that is fantastic. So, cover that back up. Rock and roll. Good to go. Another straw tragedy. I planted some, I still think they were spaghetti squash transplants in here, and birds came along and nipped them off right at the bottom, and I've been left with an empty pile of straw. So that's great. Ultimately, that'll break down for next year's garden. I'll mix it through and, it'll be just fine. Just like those potato piles there, probably get tossed into the chickens to work on over the winter, and all will be well. Our little garden pond here is a thriving ecosystem. We've got 2 of the smallest goldfish from the aquaponic garden in here. And then we seem to have been gifted some other little bronze type fish. Not quite sure what they are, and I know they're not going to show up on the camera. But they are working over any mosquitoes that try and land in there. And this has become a fabulous habitat for, well, lots of birds that we have seen drinking in here. Tons of frogs. I don't know if the camera's going to get it, but let's try and zoom in on that little guy underneath the boards there. Come on, HD, work with me. So hopefully you can see that little guy between the glare and the sun. I'm having issues with it. We were lucky enough that a bunch of duckweed has kind of spontaneously started to regrow in here. I thought it was all taken out of the pond last year, but if you look really carefully, it's growing in there. So with just the 2 goldfish that we have, I don't think they're doing too much damage to it. Probably more than happy with the mosquito larva right now. But yeah, that's, I guess. Oh no, one more thing to check on. A bit of a tragedy, but something of a tragedy, but at the same time still a success. If we look carefully in amongst the wheatgrass along the back here, it looks like most of those peas kind of roll down the hill instead of kind of working their way in. But there are actually, I want to say, somewhere in the vicinity of a dozen pea plants that have popped up on this. We've got some weeds to pull. There's a couple of little brave ones right there. Come on, yeah. Right there. No glare, kind of messed me up. But yeah, I believe Babs, you were asking about how they're doing. That's how they're doing. I see nothing from the carrots in the front row. I see nothing from the Swiss chard. So I'm just going to assume that's a write-off, and who knows, maybe they'll sprout in future years. And as far as the number of peas that I put in there, like, really? Kind of would have thought there would be more coming up. So they may pop up in future years. They may have been consumed by the birds. Who knows? And then I guess I'll wrap it up today with a look at our local composting system. These girls work hard all year round to make sure that our gardens have wonderful bonuses, and they help us get rid of kitchen scraps. So everybody wins. So if you're still with me, everybody, I hope you have enjoyed this look at the annuals gardens. And we will be back hopefully in the midweek taking a look at the perennials gardens and how things are growing there. Aside from the, birds ravaging things and taking most of our crop, things are looking pretty good. So until next time, much love, everybody. Happy gardening. Stay safe, play safe, love each other when you can. And don't forget to smile under your masks and such. Take care, everybody.